Well, from Fosston in northwestern Minnesota, straight east over to Esko near Duluth, and New Prague's joining us in Woodbury's Eastridge High School. We're welcoming our 4 state championship coaches from 2023. We have Ryan Hanlon, Esko's Ben Haugen, New Prague's Tanner Oakes, and Eastridge's Brian Sprout. Thanks, guys, for joining us. I really appreciate it. And we're at the clinic for the Minnesota State High School Baseball Coaches Association, along with the Twins Community Fund, and this is brought to you by Game One. And I know Game One loves to have their image and their talk or their name in with championships, and that's what they try to bring to their customers. So we thank you guys for your time, and I think what I'll do is we'll start with Ryan. Since you had the early game at Target Field, you had the first championship of the group. First of all, congratulations, Ryan. It's just an awesome experience for your team. You were flying under the radar a lot of the year. Maybe you guys didn't feel that way. You probably had a real good feel as to maybe what you had, but talk about your experience. Tell us about what it was like to play in that championship game, make it through bracket or make it through the quarters and the semis. Talk about your experience.
Yeah, thanks, Don. Appreciate it. Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, what else can you say when you're playing in a state championship? Obviously the kids were a little disappointed it wasn't Target Field, but we said all along you could play this game in a parking lot and they'd be excited. And 10 a.m. or 10 p.m., it was just an awesome experience for us. We, like you said, under the radar a little bit all year. Coming into the season, we knew we had a big senior class, but we had graduated 6 seniors from the team that was in the semifinals the year before, and so we weren't really sure where we were going to be at. But we started slow with some injuries. We were 2-2, and then just got some things going in the right direction, and lost in the section semifinals to Sacred Heart, and that was a tough one. We've met Sacred Heart in the championship 5 of the last 6 years to go to state. And so it was tough to lose in the semifinals. We had lost to them in the section championship in boys basketball too. And so we made our way back through the losers bracket and beat them twice in the championship. And it was just an unbelievable experience for our kids. And my assistant, he had twin boys that are seniors on the team. And so it was just a special season for us, and that's kind of where we were at. We were just really excited to get back to the state tournament, and never really thought that a state championship is possible. And went down, played really well the first night, and we had a 6:30 game, and it was just a lot of fun. We felt we won our opening round game for the first time in our program's history, and that was a first for us. And then to go play a BBE, who was just unbelievable offensive team. We got out hit, I think, 15-5, but our kids found a way to win and found ourselves in the championship. And what an experience. I mean, CHS was awesome. We had played there in 2017, so we kind of knew what to expect, but they did.
You had a whole new crop of players, unless you had super seniors going in.
No, yeah, we did as a coaching staff, but some of those kids, of course, were with the program, Bat Boys and whatever at the time. But yeah, it was just a great experience for everybody. Something that we will never forget, that's for sure.
Very cool. Coach Haugen, talk about Esko. I know you guys were you were ranked pretty high throughout the season, and leading up to this, there probably was a little bit of pressure as a result of that.
Yeah, we had everybody returning from our 2022 season. I think we only had one senior the year before, so we were kind of the opposite of Fosston. And we kind of had the mantra that we wanted to own that. Like we knew we had the teams a couple years prior that we could have gone to state, could have made some noise there, and just couldn't get out of our section. Our section is really kind of sneaky good, and so we just kind of owned that, and we kind of had the mentality all year long that we belong there and we were gonna go, and so we just kind of preached that. And on a similar note, we didn't lose our first game until the very last game of the regular season, and I think that was kind of a blessing in disguise for us. It kind of kind of reset our focus and kind of, put that losing bug in everybody's head. And, and as soon as we got on the bus, everybody forgotten about it, and it kind of just set the tone for us for our playoff run. And
takes that whole undefeated little feeling away, a little extra weight on the shoulders, I suppose, as well.
Yeah, looking back on it, would have been cool to maybe finish undefeated. I think, blessing in disguise, that we lost that last game. And and CHS, as well as St. Cloud, was just an unbelievable experience for all of our guys and our fan base. And, I think our guys would have liked to have played at Target Field, but I've heard, from a fan perspective, I think what a great venue CHS was. I mean, you could get right on top of the game and very intimate. I loved it. I thought it was awesome.
And Coach Hanlon's assistant had his sons. Your son was a part of your experience as well.
Yeah, I had 2 boys on the team this year. My older son, Cale, who graduated, and then my younger son, Sam, who's now as a junior, and then being involved with both those groups and the group right in between with Little League, going all the way through. And so just,
very cool.
All the parents, all the coaches, all the community support in a small town just kind of came together, and it was just awesome.
That's fantastic. Now, Coach Tanner Oaks, New Prague isn't a stranger to this experience as well. So, I mean, you have had a run going on the last few years, but making it to CHS and playing those games there against some beating Matamidi, who had been one of the top teams ranked out through the spring. Talk about your experience.
Yeah, no, obviously it was a fun season as well. Kind of similar to kind of Ben's experience with kind of having that winning streak early on. I think we won 9 straight to start the year, and I think guys were maybe counting the wins. And then we were humbled. Jaska and Shakti came in and just kind of beat us pretty good. Then we lost a tough game to Orono, so we ended up losing 3 straight. And then didn't lose the rest of the year. But I think that losing streak was definitely a good thing. Just kind of humbled us and reminded us that we got to keep working to get where we want to be. And like we kind of talked about all year, is playing our best baseball at the end of the year, which I think every team, that's kind of their goal at the start of the year, is to be at their best come playoff time. And so that's really what we're able to do. I think going through kind of the end of the regular season and into the section playoffs and the state tournament, we kind of preached make the routine plays, just kind of play air-free baseball was kind of our biggest mantra all year. And guys were able to kind of buy into that and just play good, clean, solid baseball for the majority of the season. And then, the state tournament experience was awesome. Being able to play at Jordan the first couple games, that's where I graduated from high school. One of our assistant coaches, he graduated from there as well. So being able to play a couple games there was awesome. And then just kind of that semifinal game, too, against Monticello is a game I'll never forget. I think we used probably 15 or 16 of the guys in our roster just with pinch running, different things like that. So a bunch of different guys that maybe didn't play a ton throughout the year stepped up in some really big moments, which was really, really cool to see. We had a couple guys that were injured that we had to kind of play through. And one kid was hurt pretty much all year. Finally kind of got back to the end and came up with a game-winning hit for us. So kind of that memory was really, really cool. And then, like it's been said, CHS is a phenomenal facility. I think, the size of it is great for a state championship game. Just Target Field is awesome. Don't get me wrong, but I think sometimes you can feel a little bit overwhelmed with just the size of the field and the stadium and the crowd and all that. But CHS, it's a little more intimate, and it was awesome. We were able to get a good fan base there from New Prague. So it was nice and loud and a lot of fun.
Just to add to that, I mean, my Anoka team, I assisted at Anoka High School, and we played our first round games at CHS, and that was loud. Both sides, both fan bases were loud. I don't know if you guys felt that when you're out there. I'm sure at state championship game, you're feeling some of that, but it is a cool venue, no question.
For sure.
Yeah. Coach Brian Sprout from Eastridge. you had to win a 1-0 game in your championship. And so I'm imagining that was quite the pitcher's duel. Talk about your journey.
Yeah, it's I don't know. Every year is different, right? Every year is unique. You got a set of players coming in. We had a lot of kids. We have a lot of talent in our program, a lot of kids that play real good baseball. It kind of made our job easy towards the end, where we just kind of let them play and do their thing, and their talent kind of figured things out for us. But, at the start of the year, well, I'd say back in September, the start of the school year itself, we had a lot of those guys telling us, coaches in school, that they were planning on making that last out in the state championship game to win the title for us and all that. And we kept pushing back on that concept because our only focus was what was going to happen in March, and kind of messaging to them like, we need to be ready to go in March and figure out what we got to do to make our way through March, then to April, and kind of push our way through the season. Because, the benefit that we have where we're at is our conference is unbelievably loaded every single year. So we see, the Stillwaters, the Mountains Views, the Woodburys, we've got just tons of good baseball teams and programs that we see. And then we go into our section tournament every year, and it's all those teams and then some. And there's this always, there's unique moments. And that's what I was going to ask you guys, Ryan and Ben and Tanner, there's unique moments along the way to get you there. If there's a certain spot in a certain game where it's like, wow, this just happened. And you think in your head, like, this might be it for us. We might be able to make it a long ways if we keep doing things like this. But I don't know. It was a grind to get through our conference season. You get a little bit of bad weather here and there, but you just play good baseball teams. And our section tournament was a lot of work too. We had a lot of talent to kind of take us through that and get us through to the end. And the state tournament, I absolutely love walking into a CHS or a Target Field and seeing crowds of communities. When we walked into CHS for ours, Tanner, you guys were playing and you were against Matamidi, and we know a lot of the Matamidi guys, and it's just so much fun to watch you guys compete on the field and feel the energy of the crowd and the players. Whether, my team's playing or not, it's just so much fun watching you guys compete. So that was probably one of the highlights initially for me. And then just going through the state tournament itself, just playing each game at CHS and playing some really good teams. Just seeing our guys compete with smiles on their face, with a lot of energy, a lot of passion. That was really fun for our entire staff and just to be a part of in itself. But again, watching all you guys play ahead of time was really one of a bigger highlight for me too, because I just love being around the atmosphere of baseball tournaments like that. So it was a really, really fun year for me altogether.
Let's back up on this then. Let's take your point there, Brian, and start with Tanner. Then we'll hit Coach Haugen and Coach Hanlon. What was your aha moment, your unique moment, your time that you had a feeling that this could happen?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know if there's an exact moment. I think expectations were pretty high in our program to start the year. We had 14 seniors, a couple of key guys come back from last year that got some experience. So expectations were high, and I think we didn't really do anything kind of special throughout the year. We just kind of played clean baseball. And I think by the time we kind of got halfway through the season, I think us as coaches were sick of saying make the routine play and let's play perfect catch and all that stuff, where it was so ingrained in their minds that, we just kept doing it. And at that point, we're like, all right, well, this isn't really a coincidence that we're fielding. And I think we're at like the 985 mark in the field. And that's a tough thing to do in high school baseball. So as long as you're not beating yourself, you're going to give yourself a chance to win. So I think it was kind of that halfway point of the year where we continued to just play clean baseball, was kind of the hitting point of, all right, well, if we can keep this up, then we do have a realistic chance here.
Cool. Coach Haugen?
Yeah, I just want to, piggyback off of something Brian said. I've never met Brian before, but I know when we left the ballpark and I saw Joe Murch, I can never pronounce his last name, Brian, but Kale played ball with him with the Iceman, and he was in the bus and he screamed at us and he's like, "Way to go, guys, way to go!" And he was yelling at Kale, and I've met Tanner's dad and both his brothers, and Ryan. One of my best friends at Esko is Scott Antonuity. So we have connections with all you guys, and I would agree. Like to see you guys compete is just, to be a part of that was fantastic. It was just an unbelievable experience for all of all of our kids. I would say for us, I kind of knew we had a chance when we had a kid, Isaac Surdich, who looked just terrible in his first 2 at-bats in our semifinal game. Struck out, looked just degraded, and then he hit a grand slam and put us up 5-2. And I kind of thought, we can do it. I mean,
okay, Coach, question. Were you thinking of pinch hitting?
No, not for that kid. Not a chance. Because he's got a chance to make that impact.
Is he one of your middle of the order type of guys?
Yeah. He's a guy we put behind Kale because he could do some damage if guys were going to throw around Kale. And I think Kale had gotten walked like three times that game, and Kale drew a tough walk to load the bases up. And Isaac came in and hit one over the scoreboard at CHS Field.
Amazing. My apologies to Isaac if he sees this. So,
so yeah, it was at that point in time, I think, because we had a tough semifinal game, and it was a battle with Cannon Falls that semifinal game, and then he hit it, and then I think we all kind of knew that we had a really good chance at doing it, and. Yeah, looking back on it now, it gives me goosebumps still right now. It's like it's crazy to think about it. So
great, isn't it? Coach Hanlon, talk about your moments.
Well, again, like I said before, I don't know if we ever really had a moment that we knew. I mean, going into the state tournament, we were really excited to be there. We didn't have a kid that threw in the 80s. We threw 13 different kids this year on the mound. We didn't have a set ace. The kid that pitched in our section championship game had only thrown one other time all year. It was just a feeling that we had. His dad is one of our summer baseball coaches and just a competitor, and he also then pitched the state championship game for us. But going into the state tournament without an ace, we didn't know who we were going to start in the first game. But we had, in Class A, you don't really have 8 seniors come through your program very often. And so we just told our kids that, if we can get through that first game, we have some depth. And we've played a lot of baseball. And it's always that hard first game to get through. You're running into someone's ace, and they're, in the upper 80s, and we're throwing a guy in the 70s. But once we got through that first game, we just told our kids, it's baseball, and so now we're to everyone's number 2 or 3, and that's kind of where all of our guys were at. We didn't have that stud, so we felt like we could compete, but even after that, we didn't think that a state championship was really right there for us. So I guess our state championship game came down to we had a 2-run lead in the last inning, and we brought in a new kid because. Our starter had hit the pitch count, and he gave up a hit and then walked the next 2 guys to load the bases with nobody out. Then he walked in a run. So now it's a 1-run game with the bases loaded.
Was this 3-2 against Lyle?
3-2, yep. And so then he was able to strike 2 kids out and got a ground ball. And so it was never like that moment that, this is ours for us. But it was just an unbelievable tournament for our kids, that's for sure.
You weren't breathing for about a half hour there.
No, it was an exciting one.
That's awesome. We have a lot of assistants in the crowd, a lot of assistant coaches. It's probably our clinic is probably made up of maybe more assistants than head coaches, which is great. Let's start with Brian Sprout. You have a great staff. I know you rely on your staff. You talk about them a lot. Here's a chance to talk up your assistants and what they mean to your program.
Oh man, I spent a lot of time thinking about them in the last few days here. As you guys know, the season never really starts or ends; it's always ongoing, right? Like Coach First is our first base coach. Coach Hartung is our third base coach, and those guys have played prominent roles for the last decade here. Coach Hartung, he coaches third base. He runs the offense. I put complete trust in him. We talk about things, but he makes the decisions. He's that offensive coordinator that he decides things and he does them. And if we disagree afterwards, we talk about it. But I just have so much faith in him and confidence in him. He puts a lot of time and effort into scouting and going through information that we provide. Coach First over at First, he does similar things in different ways with us defensively. He's always the guy I go to and talk about with lineup stuff. What should we do here? Who do we go to next? Things like that. Coach Q, he's a guy that's been around for several years now. He knows everything about everybody. He's probably at home right now, kind of scouting somebody on PBR or doing something like that, trying to get information. He knows anything and everything. And a big addition this last year was Coach Rob Walsh, who joined us. He wasn't in the dugout with us, but he helped us with a ton of scouting reports. He helped us with some defensive stuff that we worked through throughout the season in terms of bunt and steal. He knows a lot of people throughout the metro and everywhere else too. He's got a story about any person you ever talk about, so you can always have a good conversation with him. But he's one of those guys that sat there and just kind of helped our pitcher, Max Arlich, a few different times throughout the year, just, keeping him calm, keeping him focused and on to the next pitch and such. I think, my role is just kind of let everybody do their job and kind of stay out of the way. We do a ton of coaching early on in the season, and then I try and stay out of the way towards the end of it so that A, you let your coaches do what they're best at, and B, you let your players play ball and just show you what they're capable of, which is letting them just go do it without thinking too much, which is really fun to watch when they're successful.
You haven't forgotten those days as a player, have you? When you just have those moments, you got to work through them sometimes. You don't always need somebody in your ear, and you can just play. I
think so. You guys probably have gone through that with a lot of your players. Coaching your son, I'm not sure, or your sons. Ben, you're saying you had 2 on the varsity squad for that from last year?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I got a younger son who I've been coaching up. He'll be a 14U this next summer. He does his best when I am far, far away from him. And I'm not sure what it's like at the varsity level. Maybe you could speak to that a little bit about coaching.
Yeah, I was just going to say, and one of the best things my assistants, Tom Zabachnik and Dave Furch, did for me the year before is they gave me that advice. They're like, you need to just sit back and let the kids play. Like, we're going to get to a point where you got to trust them, and you can't wear every pitch on your sleeve, and because they feed off your emotion both positively and negatively. And I really took that to heart too. I mean, I just tried my best this past season just to enjoy it. You don't get to watch your kids play baseball that long, and being a head coach, sometimes you get wrapped up in all the other stuff that goes along with it. So both those guys for me are great friends and longtime assistants, but that's the one thing I'm going to carry with me forever is just that, they kind of just sat down and basically kind of chewed me out. And they're like, you need to enjoy it. You need to not get so worked up and let the kids play and have fun. And I'm not saying that was a reason we did what we did, but I think it did help. And I think our kids were able to play loose, and they were able to overcome during those times through adversity that, when the game's in balance, you don't know how it's going to go. And everybody's been in those games where, you're right there, but you just don't break through. And what's the difference? And I think sometimes it's just when you just let the kids play and have fun and let them do what they're going to do. So I'll never forget what those 2 assistants did for me, Tom and Dave, in terms of that advice. So I think that's a big part of what a good assistant coach can do is when they feel comfortable that they can tell you exactly what they feel and to know that you're going to receive it in a good fashion and have the confidence to be able to speak their mind. So
players can sense the trust amongst the coaches, can't they?
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. Coach Oakes, talk about your staff. Talk about what they meant to you.
Yeah, no, obviously there's no way you can do it by yourself. And luckily I've got 2 great assistants with me. Don Gawreluk, who's been around for a long time. He's kind of my main guy for kind of the hitting side of things. Takes care of a lot of the practice plans and things like that. So he does a great job with that. And then Jeremy Heitkamp, we just added, was his first year last year after spending several years in Jordan. So he was a phenomenal addition, a guy who really does a great job building relationships with kids. He will take 2 hours of base running if I give it to him, but I usually try to limit it to about 10 minutes each day. But just has a very strong passion for base running, which is awesome because especially in high school, it's a way to create a lot of runs by creating some havoc on the bases. So he kind of heads that up, takes care of the outfielders. Hassan takes care of the infielders, and then I kind of work mainly with pitchers and catchers defensively. And so we kind of each have our own roles and kind of specialties and do a great job just kind of working together that way. And yeah, they're phenomenal. And then Tom Wetchke, I'll throw out there too, is kind of an honorary member of our staff. He was the head coach when I first came into New Prague, and just a phenomenal guy. I've learned a ton from him. So he's a busy guy, but we love to have him around as much as possible. It's just another guy who I can learn a lot from, and obviously the players learn a ton from him too. So very, very lucky to have the assistant coaches in our program that we do.
And I know Tom, and he's a class individual, and all you guys, it's fun to hear about this. Coach Hanlon, we've heard a little bit about your assistants, but talk a little more, because I know there's probably a lot more to tell.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate to have pretty much the same staff. This is my 16th season as head coach, and my junior high coach has been with me all 16 years, and my assistant 15 of those 16. So Mike, my main assistant, he calls all of our pitches. He works with our pitchers and our catchers from start to finish, and I've just been so fortunate to have him on my staff. He's one of those guys that he's not afraid to challenge me personally as a coach, and what were you thinking here? But yet he's also loyal. He's been loyal since we started together, and I'm just very thankful for him. My first base coach, Brad, he's the one with the twin boys that are shortstop and second baseman this year. He just has a passion for the game, played at Bemidji State, his whole family did. And he loves baseball, and having kids on the team was special for him. Like Ben said, he had coached those guys from 8, 9, 10, 12, all the way up, and he still coaches in the summer. And so he helps out a lot with our summer programs as well. And then a few years back, we added a kid that actually played for us. And it's nice to have somebody younger on the staff that can do a lot of our hitting and a lot of our BP, and he ends up throwing quite a bit for us. And just also to have somebody there that can share his experience as a player. And he played in the state tournament in 2017. And so I've just been very lucky to have pretty much the same staff most of my career.
That's great. And we've already almost run out of time here, but I want to go one more little off script and another thought on your season. If there was any phrases, any types of repetitive kinds of things that came up. Sometimes you'll hear about teams, they had a lucky something or other, or some sort of phrase that they would keep thinking about or go back to, something that just triggered, maybe just a little more focus in your players. Are there any of you guys who had situations like that where maybe there was something that just you could count on if you either said it, not like I'm saying remember the Alamo or anything like that, but just something along the lines of let's get ourselves refocused, or let's think about things. Any one of you guys can hop in.
Yeah, I mean, we had a saying. I don't know if I can say it. I mean, it's clean, but we just like I was talking about, kids nowadays, they play in the summer with people from other programs and other communities, and they get to know kids really well, and so one of the things we did just to kind of focus in on us was just play like a prick. Like when you cross the lines, just like you're not friends with anybody, you're not trying to please anybody, you're just gonna go out and you're gonna play like you're gonna win, and you got to go on mind, and
you have to have an edge.
Yeah, and we actually I didn't really want to do this at first, but I'm glad we did. We had some kids that like lobbied to make championship rings or whatever. You get inundated with vendors to make those things, and we actually had that put on the underneath side of the ring. So, so it did mean something to the kids. So, yeah, that was what we did.
Anybody else?
We did too, actually, and same as Ben, it ended up on our ring too, on the bottom of it, and ours was next pitch, and we talked a lot about good, bad, otherwise. Let's just move on and refocus. And we're in our program, we don't get too high and we don't get too low. As coaching staff, it's a belief to not get too hard on the kids as long as they're putting forth effort and they're doing the things that we ask them to do. And no one's going out there trying to make mistakes, strike out, have errors or whatever. So we always try and tell them, doesn't matter what you did the last time, doesn't matter what the last play was, it's the next pitch. And so it was after we lost to Sacred Heart in the semifinals. We just told them our backs are against the wall. And so that's the only thing we can do is just one pitch at a time. And it ended up on signs all over the field and on our T-shirts and on our rings. And the kids talked about it in all their interviews too. And so it was one of those things, like you were saying, it really helped out.
And when you're in the 7th inning of a state championship game with bases loaded and a slim lead, I'm sure they're all thinking, "Oh God, I hope this next pitch is good," and everything that goes with it. I bet that helped them get through.
For sure it did. And even as we went back and listened to the game, our radio announcer said, the Greyhounds team motto this year is next pitch. And boy, is that ever the truth right now as we were going through that 7th inning. So, I mean, it just was one of those things through our program, but also through our fans and just all over. That was the motto this year.
Coach Sprout, Coach Oakes.
Yeah, we had a couple different things. One thing we always do with each team is we build a perspective poster to just to remind guys that you might strike out, you might lose a game, but ultimately there's a lot more important things in life going on. So kind of each guy just comes up with a picture that's important to them as a reminder of maybe why they play the game, or again, if they fail, okay, what do I still have going on for me? Things like that. So we kind of put all those pictures together, create a poster out of it, and it's up in our dugout every single game, just to serve as that reminder that baseball's awesome. It's a game. We should enjoy it. But ultimately, there's a lot more important things going on too. So that's one that I was a part of. The other one came up, I'm not sure how, but it was gummy bears. And so one player on the team had a giant bag of gummy bears early on in the season, had the bright idea to bite off the head of one and then bite off a head of a different color and stick them together and stick them up on the dugout. And somehow that became a tradition every single game. Not really sure what it meant. Not really sure if I don't know, but guys enjoyed it. It's like it's kind of been said, just let guys have fun. So that was kind of their thing. And so actually for the championship game, a few guys went to the world's largest candy store. We're in Jordan, and picked up a 5-pound gummy bear to bring with to the game. So yeah, they even found a way to get some athletic tape and tape it up on the dugout. So I'm sure the CHS staff were kind of looking like, what in the world is going on in that dugout? But again, if that's what helps keep guys loose and enjoy the game, then hey, I'm all for it. So yeah, they enjoyed everyone getting to take a bite out of the 5-pound gummy bear after the championship game.
That's fantastic. All right, Coach Sprout, you got the last word.
I don't think I have anything close to a gummy bear. I got nothing. I've had kids steal landscaping rocks from dugouts and label them as the names of a player's mom, and that was like their trophy every time they scored runs. That's from a few years back, but this year's crew, it was, I don't know. I hear, like Ryan, you said, like you got to play with some energy, but you got to have some control, and you got to learn how to play even keel at times. I don't know if that's how it goes all the time, but I'm always a guy. I'm a competitor. I just love competing. I love feeling that roller coaster of emotion. So I wanted to let the players just go with the ups and downs. Like what I kept saying to them throughout the year is someone's going to throw a punch, and it's going to be who's going to throw the next one. And it's going to go back and forth. And it's just, you got to stay with it. You got to stay in the game. You got to compete. You got to put pressure. Throughout our youth association, that's what I tell all of our kids, our teams, our coaches, like be aggressive, get after it, put pressure on the other team, throw punches because a punch is going to get thrown back, and just be ready to keep going. I think the best teams end up doing that really well, and they win big games that way. And I love feeling that energy and that emotion. I love celebrating. It's okay to let these kids be emotional. And like you said, there are bigger things in life than a baseball game. I absolutely agree with that. But I also want them to enjoy the heck out of just the competition, win or lose. And that's really important to me.
That's great. Guys, I appreciate your time. Congratulations on your 2023 success. and continued success in the years ahead. And again, we appreciate it. And if there's any other words of wisdom and folks want to approach you here at the clinic, I'm sure that you'd be willing and able to help answer some questions about some things. Guys, thank you very much.
Thanks, Don. Appreciate it.
Don.
Congratulations, guys.
Yeah.